Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Judith Patterson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Texas, and today I'm going to show you how to make a card from the catalog. If you've watched my videos before, especially on Fridays, then you know that my favorite place for inspiration when creating cards and other projects, but mostly cards, is from the Stampin' Up! Catalogs. Sometimes I case them, I copy them just as they are. Sometimes I make a few little tweaks, and sometimes I change practically everything. So last week I said I probably would not be making any more cards from the July to December 2021 mini catalog. Well, I changed my mind. I am doing a bit of a sneak peek this time using products from the upcoming January to June mini catalog, but the card I'm basing today's card on is actually from the current July to December mini catalog. So I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera over and show you what I'm going to be doing. Okay, so this is the July to December 2021 mini catalog. This is what the front looks like. And then this is the card that I am casing. I'm going to hold this up so you can see it a little bit better. Isn't that cute? So I've been wanting to make this one for a while, but I don't have anything on there except just the plain Jane cardstock and this awesome gingham ribbon. So I'm not using the gingham. I'm using new ribbon. Like everything other than the ink and the plain cardstock is going to be new on this. This is the mini catalog that these products are coming from, so unless you're a demonstrator, you will not be able to order from this catalog until January. If you are a demonstrator, then of course you can get it on your pre-order. If you would like to be able to order now, then talk to me about signing up. It is not hard. So if you're in the United States, I would love to have you on my team. So you can either click the Join Now link in the description or send me a message and we'll talk. Okay, so cute. All right, the first thing that I'm going to grab is my grid paper. So usually when I stamp, I use Stampin' Up's big grid paper. It's like 10 by 16 inches or 18, something like that. It's huge. So it's good to cover up most of my desk. But when I'm doing videos so that my camera focuses easier, I just use the small sheet or I don't use any at all. The colors I'm going to be using are Highland Heather, Real Red, and Blushing Bride. And I'm making a Valentine's Day card. Instead of a Halloween card, it's going to be a Valentine's Day card. The dies that I'm using are from Sweethearts Dies. There's quite a few. There's a little tag, lots of different sizes of hearts, a banner. Look at this tiny little banner, y'all. Isn't that cute? And there's also, here's another heart, and this makes a tiny little envelope. It's adorable. So I'm gonna put those aside. I also have just basic white thick cardstock for my card base, and as usual I have cut it 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches, and I scored it at 4.25 inches. I'm just giving it a good crease now with my bone folder. It'll take up less space on my desk that way. And then this is the Sweet Talk Designer Series paper. Isn't that cute? And then I also have another piece of that Designer Series paper. This one is cut 5.5 by 4.25 inches. And this one is cut 2.5 by 3.5 inches. Then I have a scrap of Highland Heather. This is to cut out this envelope, so it doesn't really need to be this big. This is 3.75 inches by 3.5 inches. But like I said, it doesn't need to be that big. As long as you have a piece of Highland Heather that is 2 3/4 of an inch square, you should be good to go. You might go 3 inches just to be on the safe side. And then I also have just little pieces of basic white cardstock. This cardstock is, it's just scraps. It's just the basic white. And it's more than I need. That's what I was going to say. This is more cardstock than I'm actually going to need. But it never hurts to have extra little scraps on hand just in case I mess up a little bit. So I meant to do this before starting to record, but I forgot. So I'm going to show you a little trick when you don't want to waste designer series paper. So here's that paper. This is going to be the background of our card. So most of it is going to be covered up. So I'm going to grab a die from Stitched Rectangle Dies. And I think I'm going to go with this one here. This one measures approximately 4 inches. It's just a skosh over 4 inches by around 2 3/4 of an inch. Not having it cut out, it's a little hard to tell exactly what it measures, but that's close. So I'm just going to cut the center of this designer series paper out so that I can save this cardstock and use it on another project. And since I'm cutting it out with the Stitched Rectangle dies, it's going to have nice little stitching around the edges of it. I'll show you. See that stitching? I mean, it's not really stitched, but you get the idea. So that's going to be great for another project later on. Not today, but someday. Let me get this out of the way. Do you see how that folds up? I love these new Stampin' Cut and Emboss machines. I guess they're not really that new anymore, but I had the other one so long that still feels new. My embossing plate has little bits of cardstock stuck in it, so I've got to clean that off a little bit. All right, I didn't show you the stamp set, did I? How silly. This is the stamp set that we're using, and I am going to be using almost all these stamps. I'm using this one, these 3, Happy Valentine's Day, and okay, so maybe I'm not using all of them, but I'm using a lot of them, and the X and the O. Using both of those. All right, so I'm gonna grab. You know what I forgot to get? I forgot to get a piece of just basic white. This is 4 by 5 1/4 inches. I'm going to cut it down to 3.5 by 5 inches in a little bit. But the first thing that I want to do is grab my water painter. I want to make sure all my cardstock is out of the way so that I'm not flinging ink on it. I'm going to squeeze. Did you see how I did that? Okay, I'm squeezing it with the heels of my hand to get ink in the lid. And these are the old ink pads. I've thought about updating them, but they still work great. So why do that when I can spend that money on new stamps and dies instead? All right, so I am just inking up. I have my paintbrush pretty wet. I'm just inking it and then flinging it on this basic white cardstock. And I do like doing this on a piece of cardstock that's a little bit bigger than I'm going to need, because then if I do something weird, if I get a weird splatter or something, I might be able to cut it down strategically so that I can hide that mistake. Whoops. I need it open. You can see where I got it really wet once and it ran down. So this is the real red. I've already done the Blushing Bride. I meant to do the real red last, but that's okay. I wanted to do the real red last because it's the hardest to clean up. So to clean this, I'm squeezing a lot of ink into the tip, and I just have a paper towel and a little, this is actually a little pencil box. I think I got it at Michael's. You can find them all over the place. I've gotten them at Office Max before, or Office Depot. I can't remember what it is now, but. All right, so then I'm going to grab the Highland Heather, and I'm going to do the same thing with it. I'm getting ink pulled up at the bottom of my paintbrush so that it's pretty wet, inking it up really good, and then I'm just splattering purple ink on this cardstock. And I'm going to set this aside so that it dries. It's probably already dry enough, but just to be sure. I did get a little bit of ink on my desk, so I'm also going to grab just a cloth and see that. Oh, okay, here's a cheat. I'm going to get hand sanitizer, and that cleans all the ink up real good. Okay, so let me clean this paintbrush too. Same paintbrush. I just need to clean it again, not also. All right, so I'm finished with the paintbrush. The next step is to get these little scraps, and I need 3 hearts. The first heart, I'm going to use one of these outlines, but I don't want the center part. So I used my die cut earlier, and I grabbed a Post-it, and I made a mask for the center of this heart, just with one of the smaller heart dies and a Post-it note. So now I'm going to pull that Post-it off, hopefully without getting ink all over myself. So far, so good. There we go. So this stamp set, being very new, it's still very sticky. So I was just fixing where it had stuck to the page. So I'm going to stamp it again, this time without the Post-it note, because I do want the words on the inside. And then I'm getting the other one that says text me. I'm doing the same thing. Well, I'm not doing the same thing. I'm just stamping it as is. No need to mask. And then I'm going to get the heart that's kind of large. And I'm going to use Blushing Bride to stamp inside the 2 hearts with words. I sure like how you can see through these blocks and the stamp to see where you're stamping. Okay, so now I'm going to grab the real red, and I'm going to stamp the inside of the 3rd heart. And while I'm stamping, I'm going to get the Highland Heather and the stamp that says, "Happy to have you in my life." I can think of quite a few people that I am happy to have in my life. Might need to make a lot of Valentine's cards this year. We'll see. That's not something I typically do, but I really like this set and this paper. Let me show you the rest of this paper, and then we'll get back to this card. So we've got the hearts that we're using and the stripes, and then the other side is more hearts and little dots. And then we have this. It makes me think of those candies that have the words on them. And then this is just the word. Well, actually, I hadn't looked at this real close. So let me get it close. It's all these different languages and saying love. Oh, I love this. And this is one of my favorite Stampin' Up! Colors also. All these colors are some of my favorites. So then we have this one with lollipops and candies and hearts. And the other side of it is just a like watercolor type background. That one you've seen. This one you haven't. Whoops, sorry about that. See if I can straighten that up a little. Okay, so now we've got all these different hearts, and then on the other side, just stripes, which are always handy. You can use stripes on any kind of card. I think Stampin' Up! Does a pretty good job of, even when we have holiday themed or specific themed designer series paper, you can usually flip it over and use the other side for something else. And hearts, you can use hearts for all kinds of things. I mean, this could be background paper for wedding cards or anniversary cards. It doesn't have to be Valentine's. Anyway, I love these colors, love this paper. And that was, again, the Sweet Talk Designer Series paper from the January to June 2022 mini catalog. And I won't be able to link to all of these products because they're not available yet. So that's a bummer. Okay, I've lost myself. The other thing I want to do is grab one of those smaller hearts and use the Blushing Bride. And I'm going to stamp this heart in the middle of that sentiment that I stamped just a minute ago. There we go. So while all that ink is drying, it's probably dry by now, but I just like to be really sure so I don't do something weird when I'm using the die cuts. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the little mini envelope. So I've got that Highland Heather scrap of paper. Got my mini Stampin' Cut and emboss machine this time. Then set that to the side and I'm going to start cutting out these hearts. There's one. I like that this stamp set has two different sizes of hearts with words in them and the images to color inside the heart as well. Oh, I just did something weird. And the final thing that I need to do is get my Stampin' Cut and emboss machine. Well, it's not the final thing, but before we start putting this together, it's the final thing. I'm going to use the Stampin' Cut and emboss machine to trim around this little bit. And what I'm doing is I'm just putting the edge of the words to where they're right underneath the blade. so it'll be a pretty even cut all the way around, and it'll be small, and I know it's gonna fit, well, it would fit in that little envelope. I'm not really putting it in the envelope, but I want to have it sticking out of the envelope. So there we go. My blade is getting dull. Okay, my blade has been dull. I keep putting off changing it. I don't know why. I have extra ones. I just like my blades to last as long as I can get them to last. Seems wasteful if I don't. Okay. Oh, you know what? While I have that out, I'm going to go ahead and trim down that splatter piece. So I like the way that's splattered. I'm going to turn it around this way. I'm going to do 3.5 inches. By 5 inches. Let me grab that grid paper back again. And then let's start putting this together. Alright, so I'm going to begin at the beginning. And I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue around this, we'll call it a frame. Doesn't have to be. Like I said earlier, I just don't like wasting designer series paper. Sometimes I do because I'm in a hurry, but I don't like to. Especially paper this great. I don't want to run out. Okay. So that's glued on. I like using the liquid glue because it gave me just a little bit of time to straighten that out, make sure the edges were good. So then I'm going to get that liquid glue again, put it on the back of my splatter piece. Then I'm going to angle this one. Okay, so the next thing is to get this little piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my grid paper, and I'm going to use a ruler. I know I have one of those. Here we go. I'm going to grab my pencil. So this is 2.5 inches wide. So I want 1.25 inches, and I want it about 1/2 inch up. So I want a little dot right here, and that should be the center. So 1.25, 1.25. It's a little off center, but there we go. So now I'm going to take my scissors, my little paper snips. I'm going to start at the corner, and I'm just going to cut a straight line right up to that dot. I'm going to start in the other corner and do the same thing, and that'll make like a little banner. I think I started cutting a little early, but nope, we're good. I can still see my dots, so I'm just going to use my eraser and get rid of those. Okay, so now this is in the new catalog as well. It's faux linen ribbon in real red. I always like the real red ribbons. So I'm going to get about 12 inches, maybe a skosh more. So that was 7. I'll do 12.25 inches because I'll be trimming some of that down. I'm going to take my my Stampin' Seal, and just run some of that on the back of this banner. And then I'm going to put this ribbon to where it comes out on either side. I'm just going to go back and forth. I like using the Stampin' Seal for this. Don't use Stampin' Seal Plus, just use Stampin' Seal, because then I can pick the ribbon up and move it if I need to. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I think I need to move it a little closer and have this end be a little bit further out. There we go. I'm going to move this up some. And everybody does their ribbon a little bit different. I don't like my ribbon to be wider than my card base, because then I feel like I have to stuff it into my envelope, and I don't want to stuff anything. Not even a turkey at Thanksgiving. Yeah, so that looks good. So now I'm going to get my Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm going to add Stampin' Dimensionals in each of these corners. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a couple along the ribbon too, just to hold it down a little bit better. It shouldn't be going anywhere, but you know, just to be on the safe side. If you watch my videos, you know I like using dimensionals. I probably always use one or two more than I really need to. Okay, so I'm just going to center this up, and I want this to be straight up and down. I don't want it crooked. Alright, so now I'm going to find all those little hearts that I've buried in scraps. And I'm going to put Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of all of these. And earlier today, I ran out of dimensionals on this sheet. So I'm going to use this sheet of scraps. I'm going to use these small pieces here. So you can always cut dimensionals in half and always save those scraps and use them. I think that one just needs, well, probably just needs that one dimensional, but I'm going to add another one just because I can. Okay. So it doesn't really matter which one you start with, as long as it's one of the Blushing Bride. The lighter, the pink ones, and then you want the red one in the middle. So this card is not hard, it's not difficult at all, but there are lots of little pieces and lots of little steps to it, so it does take a little bit longer than some of the other cards that I like to make, but I think it's totally worth it because it's so cute. I love the way it turned out. I was so excited when I saw this bundle, well, this whole suite really, in the new mini catalog, because I immediately thought of this card from the current mini catalog. So I'm just using my bone folder to straighten out these edges. That one, I'm not sure I really straightened it. I might have, nope, it's straight. I like a nice crease. Now I'm going to use liquid glue again, just on the edge of one flap on the side and then the tip of the bottom flap. I'm going to glue all of that together, and whoopsie, I didn't have that one folded over as much as I did earlier. Now I have glue everywhere. Silly me. I just realized you probably couldn't see all that. Okay, so I did get a little bit of glue right here. I'm going to let it dry for just a second, and then I have a glue eraser. I'm just going to use that to pull some of that glue off. That way I don't have it sticking on things. Yep, that's perfectly smooth now. And I'm going to use, this was totally a mistake. I didn't mean to do this, but now you can see how to fix it. So maybe if you're not putting things in your little envelope, first check how your envelope is folding. Mine folded great earlier. I'm not sure what I did this time. So I'm just using my take your pick tool to stick a glue dot inside that. So now it's closed up nice. So now I'm going to take my glue again and just put it on the bottom. Now I'm going to put it on the whole thing. Putting that on the back of my little sentiment piece. And I'm putting that piece kind of catty-cornered in there. And then I'm going to take another piece of, another one of those small pieces that I had cut. Stampin' Dimensionals. You can put a full-size dimensional. I just don't have one here. On the back of the flap, and at the bottom of the envelope, I'm putting more liquid glue. That way I can tuck my envelope underneath these hearts. And the flap is kind of sticking up. There's a little bit of dimension there. Okay, so that is the front of the card. For the inside, I'm going to get that real red ink again. And at the bottom, I'm going to put XOXO. And I'm sure you could just do it one time if you want to, or no times. You could also use the Designer Series paper. If you have a little piece of it left, you could use it to decorate the inside. So I'm also using the Happy Valentine's Day stamp inside. Just inked it up with red and stamped it right on there. So let me pull out that catalog again. And you can see there's the original. This is on page 50 of the July to December 2021 mini catalog. And then this is the card we just made. So cute. I love both of them. Remember this bundle, this suite, everything except the black and white ribbon in this suite, this is your last chance to order them. They're available while supplies last or until the end of the month. I hope that you enjoyed this card. Remember that if there is a card from one of the catalogs, one of the current catalogs that you would like to see made, let me know and I'll do my best to make it, or at least my version of it. If you have any Stampin' Up! Questions at all, let me know. And if you can join me Thursday night at 6 p.m. Central Time on Facebook for my live, I would love to have you there. Okay, that's all I have today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Happy stamping!